What up, friend? How are you?
Dude, no complaints. How's your day going?
Swimmingly. Kind of like a Monday, but it's Friday, so
So
busy, I
fabulous?
guess is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, not fabulous. Fabulous.
It's always fabulous, dude. My Mondays are always good.
So fab. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad to be here with you. I'm so glad it's Friday is my favorite day just because of this podcast. Like this makes my whole week.
Oh, I totally agree. And today's topic, no less, like I love it. I had this huge epiphany earlier in the week. And like I love that you and I have this love for like content and books and all of the things because we you and I are just both like big book nerds. And what I love about it is you and I can read a book. We read the exact same book or we watch the exact same interview and we come back to each other and we compare notes on it. And we come to the table with like two completely different perspectives. And it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't even see it the way that you took it. So crazy. And it becomes a super enlightening conversation where we're both learning and growing from each other. And if that wasn't cool enough, from that conversation, you implement the things that was within that video or that book that we read, and then the things that we each took from it. We go and implement it. We work on it. We fail at it. We overcome it. And then we read the same book again, maybe 6 months later, or maybe a year later. And you get
I
totally something completely new because you've leveled up your perspective. You've leveled up the season in your life and in your business, and you start cherry picking things that you read before, but just weren't relevant to you in that moment. As a student of life, I love being able to do that. I had a really, really big epiphany when it comes to failure recently.
well, was that the epiphany or tell me about it? It was
So, the way that I see it, looking back on just like my entrepreneurial journey, is everybody's under the mindset, including myself at one point. Everybody's in the mindset of, well, I can't do this because I don't have the information. I can't go buy a house with no money out of pocket and leveraging somebody else's credit and debt and all these other kind of things. I can't do that because I don't know how. Or I can't make $100,000 a month because I don't know how. Or whatever it is. And I've come to the realization that education, knowledge, and information is not, there's no shortage of it. It's not like it's in limited supply here. If you really want to go learn this shit, you can go read books about it. You can go read articles on the interwebs about it. You can go talk to somebody who's doing it. Like there's no shortage of information. So there's really no excuse why people can't be doing something. You know what is really interesting though that nobody talks about? It's not about necessarily how to do something, but how to fail at something.
oh, I'm good at that.
We think, but nobody tells you how to get out and how to fail and how to do something and being able to see it from that perspective. People don't take the action because they're afraid to fail, but it's like, dude, you don't even know how to fail. You don't know how to fail in your communication because you don't even know how to you don't even know how to communicate to fail at it. You know what I mean? It's like being afraid to ride a bike and you say, "Man, I'm so scared to ride a bike. Like I don't want to fail at riding a bike and that's why I can't ride a bike." But it's like, dude, you've never even seen a bike in person, let alone attempted to ride it. You don't even know how to attempt to ride it without attempting to ride it, you don't even know how to fail at it.
hmm it's like going into it saying I want to ride a bike and then looking at like Harley Davidsons. It's like whoa. Let's start with the training wheels first. And I mean, I've watched my kids do this a million times. I cannot figure out for the life of me they managed to fall off a bike with training wheels. But I love it because they get back up and they're like, "Yeah, look at this! Look, mom, check it out!" I'm like, "Yeah, dude, that's so cool!" And then they just go eat it like 200 more times in the backyard. Like, kids are the epitome of what failing looks like successfully.
100%. 100%. I love Victoria's comment here. She said, failure is discouraged in our society. We're not taught how to fail or that that's okay. And I totally agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree with that. And I think one of the biggest stigmas for me was I was so afraid to go and try something. And I give myself the excuse of, well, I can't try it because I don't know how. And then I don't want to fail at it. But we're worried about something when you don't even know how to do it. You don't even know how to fail at it. There's no shortage of information for you to go and start trying it, but you don't even know how to fail at it. Like if you don't know how to delegate, if you don't know how to communicate effectively, if you don't know how to, talk to a seller or relate to a seller or anything like that, there's no shortage of information on how to do that. What people don't talk about is how to fail at that.
I think
so
there's
that you can learn.
Yeah, I think there's just such a huge misconception that, if you fail, then that's it, you're done. You don't get another opportunity. You can't try again. I played
Yeah.
rugby in high school, and I didn't realize this until I was an adult. But my rugby coach celebrated winning and losing equally.
Interesting. Tell me more about that.
Well, as long as we played our best, as long as we went out there and did our absolute best, played our hardest, we would go celebrate. Granted, if we lost, then practice next time around was going to be a lot harder. But that's the whole point: is you lose, you try harder. It never dawned on me until, maybe I don't know, maybe 2 years ago, what he was doing, because that alone is teaching you that win or lose, you just go try again. You do it again. You attempt it again. And so in my head, I have this little mantra that failing for me, the only way I could possibly fail is if I do not try again.
I love that. No, I think your rugby coach is onto something with that. And it's a really hard mindset shift to make. Victoria said, we applaud babies as they take first steps and fall down. But as adults, if you screw up, it's blasted all over the internet and you're shamed.
Yeah, I feel so bad for like people in the limelight, like Johnny Depp and Taylor Swift and whoever else. Like, man, you just could not do anything living that lifestyle without being publicly shamed for being human.
But you don't even have to be of that caliber, right? Like,
Yep.
like everybody who's just trying something new, trying to get into something that they've never done before. I had a meeting with one of my clients this morning, actually. We were on the phone for almost an hour. And we had a meeting last night. We were talking about goals within our cohort, within the Growth Co. And so this week we've been focusing on goals and getting really, really clear on what our goals even are, and going over a lot of misconceptions and really the power that comes from having clarity and having goals and understanding where those goals are going to stretch you. And within that stretch, because you're setting them far and beyond your current capabilities, you're going to fail. There's no shortage of information to get you there, but what people don't talk about is how to fail at it. And go along with Victoria's comment here. It's interesting because last night he wasn't that I want to make 6 figures a month. And I was like, dude, I totally resonate with that, because I grew up thinking that 6 figures a year was the standard. So saying out loud to somebody else that I want to make 6 figures a month is like, wow.
Whoa, Jesse. Throttle back on your dreams there, buddy.
Right? But I get it, because I've been there before, man. And everybody starts kind of looking at you differently. They start looking at you almost as if like you're better than them. And there's this saying, it's like, don't tell your goals to small-minded people, because they're just going to think that you're bragging. But when you tell them to somebody else who's making 7 figures a month, they're going to look at you like, why are you setting your goals so low? Why are you really devaluing what you're capable of? And Alex Hormozi talks about this. As you start to gain traction and momentum in your business, you start to acquire other skills that are above and beyond what your current group of friends are, there's going to come a time in your life and in your business where you're going to have to separate yourself from that people, because we've all got the same 24 hours. So at some point, you're going to have to remove yourself from this group of friends and their way of thinking, to move into this other group of friends who are going to continue pulling you and elevating you in that direction that you're wanting to go. And it's during that time that is so pivotal for most entrepreneurs, because it's in that time that they're separating themselves from their friends, their family, everybody who had that old way of thinking, and they're trying to get into this new way of thinking. They're trying to just say, hey, it's okay that I make $100,000 a month. Some people think that it's not okay to make $100,000 a month because in some way, shape, or form, you are taking away from somebody else, which is not true. Or that you are somehow, ripping somebody else off if you're making $100,000 a month.
You know what? Actually, you are. Think about it. You are. If you're not making $100,000 a month, if your goal is $100,000 a month, and you're not making, and you're making that, and you are not sharing that, then you are ripping someone else off, because you're not teaching them how you were able to do it, and that it is possible, and that it is something that you can strive to achieve. So I'm going to disagree with you on that. You're wholeheartedly ripping someone off if you're not making that, or if you're making that 100K and you're not sharing it. I'd say you're doing someone a disservice.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I'll use my family as an example. I want to retire my parents. And when I told them I was getting out of the Air Force at 14 years, even though it was with the intent to put my family in a different situation, and I even want to retire my own parents. They don't see it like that. And so I totally agree with you. Like, whether they agree with me or not is irrelevant. I feel like I have an obligation, and that is my responsibility to make sure that I'm the one in my family lineage to be able to go back and change this whole thing. So it's really in those moments when you're separating yourself from somebody else and trying to get into a new group of friends that can be really lonely. And if you say your dream to the wrong person and they make some sort of comment or something that makes you feel like, you can't achieve it, or that you're undeserving of it, it can literally make or break an individual in that moment, in that time frame, in that season. Yeah. And it is so pivotal. But I think failure is one of those things that nobody talks about, but really understanding how to reframe it and the role that it actually plays and what it is we're trying to doing is what's going to build you into that person that we're capable of becoming.
You know what the most pivotal book, I don't know if I said that right, my jumbled up, but the most pivoting book in my life, and Jesse, I know you can attest to this, I've read a lot of books.
A lot of books.
This whole bookshelf, every single one of them, done. But this book right here, Failing Forward, John C. Maxwell. This is the most transformative book I have read in my entire life. Because when you hit that wall, when you hit that point where you're just like, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of being frustrated. I'm sick of not having the financial life that I want. I'm sick of having friends with bad attitudes. And I'm sick of when you're just done, when you're fed up, your brain goes, okay, I need to stretch. I need to grow now. Mm-hmm. And this was the book that I read when I hit that point. When my brain said, I need to do something. I need to make a change. I need to change the way my family's trajectory is going. I need to be around better people. I need to be around different people. I need to be okay with flopping. This is the book that I looked at and I said, yeah, all right. And I read this book probably 2 or 3 times a year. And it really just never, wow. I love it, dude. I love it. Even if I just pick it up and I open to a page, say goodbye to yesterday. A dream beckons to the east. Like, you can pick it up and anything you read, even if you have no context, will be a moment of change for you.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. That has been one of the single-handedly most impactful books for me as well, and my growth and my mindset and how I really perceive failure. Caleb says, love that story you told about the pottery test with quality and quantity. The quantity side actually had the best quality. Dude, Caleb, 100%, bro. Do you have that bookmarked at all, Carlin?
Actually, this is one that I haven't marked up. I
Oh,
have.
you haven't marked it up yet?
I know, dude.
Oh, man.
Especially with how much I read.
So weird, bro. That's so weird.
I think so. I've had probably 3 or 4 copies of this book. And my many moons ago book went to my sister-in-law, actually.
Mhm.
So this exact book has no marks in it. The one that she has looks like a toddler scribbled in it. So and you know what? A toddler did scribble in it in some parts. But there's like the pottery example, that's only the tip of the iceberg for the examples. I love the one with Amelia Earhart.
Mhm.
I love the example of Thomas Edison. I love the example of Henry Ford. Like, there are just so many examples in this book of some of the most successful people just continuously flopping.
Mhm.
And I think it's so important that when you look at success and you look at failure,
Yep.
the failure was the success. You have to flop a million times. Like Henry Ford, oh my gosh. Walt Disney, holy cow. It's just fail after fail after fail until you're not failing anymore. And you have to do that to be successful.
Really understanding that to go along with that post. Thank you for sharing this, Freddie. I appreciate you being here, buddy. I miss you.
I miss
Good
you
to
too,
see ya.
Freddie.
To go along with the story that Caleb was talking about with the pottery test, for those of you guys who missed it, essentially there's a story that a ceramics teacher, actually, you know what? Let me see if I can find it real quick. I'll read it to you guys real quick because it's really, really good. And like this story alone really helped set the precedence for me on how I perceived failure. Let me share this with you guys. This is so impactful. If you have not heard this yet, let me share this with you. The ceramics teacher announced on opening day that he was dividing the class into 2 groups. All those on the left side of the studio, he said, would be graded solely on the quantity of work they produced. All of those on the right side solely on the quality. His procedure was simple. On the final day of class, he would bring in his bathroom scales and weigh the work of the quantity group. If the quantity group churned out 50 pounds of pots, they got an A, 40 pounds of B, and so on. Those being graded for quality, however, guys, they only had to produce 1 pot, albeit, though, a perfect one, in order to get an A. Well, came grading time, and a curious fact emerged. The works of the highest quality, guys, were all produced by the group that was being graded for quantity. It seems that while the quantity group was busily churning out piles of work and learning from their mistakes, the quality group had sat around theorizing about perfection. And in the end, had a little to show for their efforts than grandiose theories and a pile of dead clay. It doesn't matter whether your objectives are in the area of business, art, ministry, sports, or relationships. The only way that you can get ahead is to fail early, to fail often, and fail forward.
Ooh, goosebumps.
Dude, right? Such a powerful moment in my life reading that excerpt from that book and really understanding that failure is part of the process, but nobody talks about how to fail. Nobody talks around the mindset that goes into failing. Failing in and of itself should be a task. It should be something that you guys look forward to. I've shared this story before, but one time me and my family went to a church function, Carlin, and it was kind of like they were doing I guess you'd call it a potluck. And then they had a drink station where they had root beer floats and all these other kind of different, mixtures and things like that. So we're going through the line. We all get our food and we get to the drink station at the end. And all of my kids wanted root beer floats except my second oldest son, Cole. Cole wanted just root beer, no ice cream. And so I said, okay, cool. So all the other kids got root beer floats and he's got just root beer. So we go and sit down. And after about 5 minutes or so, we're getting into the meal. And Cole probably has about that much of his hot dog left and a few Cheetos on his plate. And he looks up at me and he says, hey, Dad, I want a root beer float. Can I go get one? And I said, yes, after you eat your food. Then we'll go back and I'll get you a root beer float. But you chose not to have a root beer float. You wanted just root beer. So you're going to finish this, and then we'll go plop some ice cream in it when you're done. And what was interesting, Carlin, was in his head, rather than just doing the work, rather than just finishing up, and anybody else whose parents in here can probably relate with this. When you tell your kid, you're like, yeah, just finish your food real quick, and I will go get you some more ice cream. We can go do whatever you want to do. I need you to just finish this real quick. You got a little bit left. 30 seconds and you're done. But what do? He spent the next 15 minutes, Carlin, trying to give some excuse as to why he couldn't or why he deserved the root beer float, or trying to sneak root beer float from his other siblings.
Yep.
He spent 15 minutes trying to create all this friction, because in his head, that was the fastest way to it when he just didn't want to do the work. How often do we find ourselves in that exact same scenario when we're this close to gold, and we will find every reason in the book to cause friction between where we want to be or where we are and where we want to be, because maybe failure could be a big part of that reason, but we're 3 inches from gold, man. And so being able to understand like this, like, hey, if we want to get an A, we just have to, our only job, we're being graded for quantity here. It doesn't matter what they look like none of this stuff matters. And just what happens as a byproduct of just doing the work is that process gets so refined. It gets streamlined. And we end up with the best pot from failing forward. And so it was just a great reminder, watching my kid do that when he was like, Dad, I just want a root beer float. It's like, dude, you got that much of your hot dog left. Like, finish it and we'll go get one. And he'll spend the next 15 minutes instead of 30 seconds finishing his hot dog and chips on his plate.
I did the bad parent thing the other day. And so my kids do this thing every morning. You'd think that I changed up the routine every morning or something. Said, okay, guys, you need to get ready for school.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 7:30. They have to be at school in 10 minutes. They're like rushing through the house. They don't have their socks on. I'm getting to the point. I'm like, I don't care if the socks match. Just get the socks on. Do something. And so the next day, it's the day after Halloween. The next day, I'm sitting there and I'm like, I wonder how I could speed up this process. And my kids, they're little hustlers. They've got an entire 5-gallon bag, 5 gallons of candy from trick-or-treating. And so I look at the bag of candy and I look at my kids. It's like 6:30. So we've got an hour and 10 minutes before we need to be at school. And I said, as soon as you guys are ready for school, you can pick out one piece of candy. And my God, I have never seen them get so ready for school so fast. I was just sitting there. I was like, it's amazing how if you change the motivation, like if you change the end result, the outcome or the process becomes completely different. It's sped up. It's like you just bypass the whole thing like nothing happened. So what took them an hour 2 days before took them 10 minutes when they had some form of motivation at the end of it. I was just like, dang, guys. What? Like, why am I fighting you guys? I can't give you candy every morning. You're like, yeah, I need to find a new incentive because I can't give you guys a piece of candy every single time you have to do something.
Right.
But it's a great, like, it's a great perspective, seeing like it just like what Freddie said, you change their narrative, you change the projection. And it was just, I was just sitting there, I was like, how, why? Why?
Yeah, I think Victoria hit the nail on the head with this. So she said, so what I'm hearing you say is fill as many times as you can versus using all of my time and energy on perfecting one single project.
Yeah, that is exactly what I'm saying. Fail so many times and fail good and fail hard.
You know what's funny? It's funny you brought that story up, Carlin, because I had this idea that I thought would help so many people. Often I find myself like asking the question, like, Jesse, what would you need if you were in this position, 4 years ago? And you're trying to figure out, how to get clarity or what to do or where to take action on, and not wanting to fail, not wanting to make that phone call because you're scared of what's going to say. So kind of like you, and like Freddie just said, simply just changing the narrative. This is why mindset and self-development is so important, guys, because when you can kind of change the narrative to yourself a little bit, it literally flips a switch, and you'll see things happen that you have no idea how that would have happened otherwise. But I thought about, and I think I've shared this with you before. I wanted to put together like some kind of like weekly Zoom where the entire thing is just a game. It's like a game show. And the entire point of the game, Carlin, is to fail. So like maybe as an example, we play bingo. Okay. I've got this in my head, so I'm going to try to articulate as best I can. So we play bingo, but instead, in order to get a letter, or maybe we play tic-tac-toe or something, but in order to get that square or something, you have to call a seller right there live on the Zoom for everybody. And it's not enough just to call the seller. You have to get yelled at.
It's so much fun. I love it when they yell at me.
If you do that, then that's how you win. That's how you get the game. And everybody else is on the Zoom and everyone's, encouraging, and it's all fun and games. And there's no repercussions. The entire point of the game is to fail. Oof. Go pitch creative. I don't even know what creative is. Doesn't matter. You still have to pitch it. Okay, here we go. Here's my best shot. Don't even know what we're doing here, but I'm going to call somebody and pitch creative, even though I don't know what creative is. You know what I mean? So it just puts people in that seat and gives people permission to just go out and fail at it, and to understand that this is just part of the process. So let's have fun with it. Let's have fun in the process. Let's make it a game.
I was talking to my dad this morning. This is interesting. So I have 2 7-year-olds, drastically different. Like, they're different in every single possible way. One of them follows in my footsteps with her favorite letter. Like, she's just distracted, and it lives her life the way she wants to live her life. Mm-hmm. So I get a call from the school. They say, hey, we're having some trouble. She's not really focusing. My other daughter is a perfectionist. Like, will not, like, she missed a day of reading and just lost it this morning. And so I was talking to my dad, and I said, well, I don't know what happened, but my one daughter's grades went from F's to C's. Mm-hmm. Nothing changed. We just had a conversation. The other daughter, I told my dad, I said, I don't know how to articulate that it's okay to fail, because we talk about it every single day. What do you do if you fail? You try again. What if it doesn't work? You find another way. So I have one daughter that's over here, and I love them dearly, but I have one daughter that's in the quality group and one daughter that's in the quantity group. And it's just so interesting watching the dynamic of the two of them, because I'm like, okay, so you're over here failing hard, and you're over here trying to figure out how to make the pots the right way. But when you put them together, that's the part I love. When you put them together, they are an unstoppable force. And it is horrifying to be the target of their brain power put together. But it's just so interesting, because you have these different types of people, and you can be successful and you can fail in so many different ways.
Yep.
And it's just, even if you're an overachiever, and even if you're distracted in life, it doesn't matter. you have the ability, you have the capability to find someone that brings the balance to you, to be able to just punch it. And it is just such a beautiful chaos when those groups come together. It is horrifying. It is beautiful disaster. So it's just really interesting when I was talking to my dad this morning, because I was like, I've got one, I have no idea what happened. Her grades went from F's to C's in like 2 weeks, and I don't know what I just started making games. That's all I did. I started making games for math and for counting and for reading, stuff like that.
Yep.
It was like, but I don't know how to get my other one to be okay with failing, because as much as I articulate it, it's just she doesn't like it. She doesn't, and I mean, it's not a bad thing, but it's something that I need her to understand, that it's okay to fail in life, and it's okay to have to try and, figure out something like, so you didn't read tonight.
Yep.
Well, you have a whole other day tomorrow. Like, it's just such an interesting balance.
It is. No, 100%. Nestor said, is hard in your mind fail with someone else's money? My most huge concern is paying back lenders. So I think you're asking if in your head failing is paying back somebody else. If I'm understanding you right. Is hard in your mind fail with someone else's money? It could be. It could be. I mean, you certainly want to mitigate some of that risk. I'll be the first to tell you, the first time that you borrow money from somebody else, the first time that you've ever done that, there's a lot of anxiety and things like that. And that's the difference between W-2 people and entrepreneurial people, is because W-2 people, they feel, right? It's all about they feel safe and secure in that W-2. And they're willing to take less money so they don't have the anxiety that comes with being a business owner, that comes with being a CEO. And a lot of that anxiety, again, like you said, Nestor, could be due in some parts to, borrowing money or raising money and making sure that you are cognizant and handling that, those funds appropriately, that you are a good, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh man, it's on the tip of my tongue. But, ensuring that a good steward of your money and then somebody else's money. And that's one of the big things that you have to, there's no easy way to transition into it. And that is just understanding that, having the mindset and the courage to go ahead and do it, but then also ensuring that maybe you have somebody else who can help you understand or walk you through to mitigate that risk for you. That's where who, not how is so important, and making sure that you have a community and that you have a group of accountability partners, or maybe even a board of advisors that you can go to as you're leveling up. So you always have these resources to help mitigate some of that risk and walk you through a lot of those ailments that would cause you to otherwise stay away from because of that fear of failure, if that makes sense.
I want to touch on something else there as well. Aside from the risk factor, having communication with your lenders is going to be a big important thing, because if you just leave them hanging, then yeah, they're going to be a little bit ticked off. But I mean, real estate is risky. That at least like flips. I've seen flips go way backwards. But as long as you're communicating with your lenders and saying, hey, look, this is where we're at, this is what happened, then that helps with that pivot, that need to adjust the plan. So
100%. Yeah, there's things that you do, like Carlin said, communication is big on everything that we should be doing. But that is an example of what could be a failing forward. Yeah, 100%. The way that I like to look at failure, this new epiphany that I've had when it comes to understanding what failure really is on top of everything else that we've talked about today. But I don't think that people really put themselves in the position where they even give themselves a chance to fail. And what I mean by that is, you're like, if you were going to, here's a good example. If you wanted to grow your business, if you're doing maybe one deal a month or maybe 2 deals a month or every other month or something like that, and you're trying to figure out how do I scale from this, you're going to have to acquire other skills. Well, there's no shortage of information and education on how to do that. Whether you go consume that information for yourself, whether you pay for it, whatever. The problem, and I think that not many people talk about, is how to fail with that information, because they have this information, and now you need to figure out. You don't even know how to put. If you start reading books about leadership, for example, and delegation, it's not enough to just have that information. You need to know how to fail with that information. And I think that is a key, that most people don't know how to fail with that information. They don't even know with that information. You have to ask yourself, all right, now I've got this new information. I'm learning how to delegate, how it should be communicated, how I should be talking to my team, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But now how do I put myself in a position to even fail with that information? So there's no shortage of information here. What people lack is the ability or the knowledge to even know how to fail with that information. I see you really thinking deeply, Carlin.
It never stops, Jesse. The brain never stops.
That was part of the epiphany that I had this morning, though, or not this morning, earlier, or recently. Was I kept thinking about myself, 4 years ago, and where I wanted to be and the things that I wanted to do. And it wasn't enough just to have that information. Simply having the information didn't remove the bottlenecks from my business.
I think
I needed to put myself in a position where I could fail with that information.
Your brain gets overloaded if you're not using the information. It almost becomes like you have to act on that, whether or not you
100%.
fail or succeed. You have to act on it, because I don't know if it's like this for other people, but if I'm reading, I have to apply the information somewhere. Otherwise, my brain just, like, it feels like it's just squeezing. It's like, oh, now you have this. What are you going to do with it? Oh, now you have this. What are you going to do with it? And it just feels like there's this immense pressure in my brain where it's like, I need to put this into action somewhere, because what's the point of learning it if you're not going to utilize it? So that was the direction my brain was going. Is like, I just have to do something with that information. It becomes
100%. It's like the pottery stuff. Like, so many people would spend all of this time researching how to make pots and how to build pottery and all these other kind of things. But it's like, what do you do with that information now? You're not even doing enough to fail with that information. So then that's when we're talking about the class where it was being graded for quantity, where you could have an entire class that knows absolutely zero about pottery. Maybe you have them go read a book, or maybe you have them watch a YouTube video, and then they have to go put themselves in a position where they can fail with that information that they have now. Oh, okay, so there's a spinny thing. Okay, well, I'm just going to go cause a bunch of chaos now, and I'm going to try to fit, this clay on here. Oh, I've got to have it watered down, or I've got to do this, or I've got to not use as much clay, or use less clay, or whatever it is. And eventually, what comes to fruition from failing, putting yourself in a position to fail, is you end up with that perfect pot. Mm-hmm. And not only do you end up with a perfect pot, you end up with an entire process created. You end up with SOPs. You learn how to delegate. You learn how to build a team, and you learn how to communicate all of those failures into what will end up be, a process that'll be refined, that'll get you that result every single time. And so many people are allowing themselves to stay away from the opportunities to even fail at it, thinking that just having the information is enough. And you end up putting yourself in a position where you're like that other part of the class that's being graded for quality, where they just kind of sit around theorizing about the best way to build a perfect pot. They're not even putting themselves in the position to even know what failure looks like.
And I think that ties in perfectly to what Victoria's comment says. It's okay, I didn't get that today, I'll just do it tomorrow. I don't think that's failure. I think that is I mean, in aspect, it could be failure, but I think that comes into motivation, kind of like tying yourself up. You're not even giving yourself the opportunity to fail. If you're saying I'll just get that done tomorrow, then that's a whole different, that becomes procrastination. And while procrastination is a form of failure, it's that's a whole different issue on its own.
I love what you said there. I think you hit the nail on the head. And Victoria, thank you for putting this comment out here, because I think like this is a great example. I appreciate you putting this comment out here. I think it's a great example. That's how a lot of people would see failure, is they look back at something like that and say, "Oh, it's okay. You know, I can take care of it tomorrow." When in reality, they never even gave themselves that. That's not what failure is. Failure is doing it and then fucking it up, and then you continue doing it. Like that's what failure is. Most people aren't putting themselves in the position to even fail. So I really appreciate you bringing this up. I think this is something I know I have personally related to this in in previous years, and I know this is still relatable in a lot of different ways for myself today, and a lot of people watching and listening to it. So thank you.
I'm guilty of it. There's been times where I know for a fact I've texted you and been like, "Yeah, don't worry, I'll get that done tomorrow." And then I think about what I just said and go, "Dang it." And then I'm on my laptop at like 11 o'clock at night. James is like, "What are you doing?" So I don't know. I think there's an extent of I'll get it done tomorrow, and then there's also the I'm just not going to do it, and then there's the I'm going to do it now, F it up, and then correct it tomorrow. And usually that's the one I opt for, is okay, I'm going to go scribble down a bunch of things that are going through my head right now, and then Jesse can read my notes, and then he can be confused, and then we'll talk about everything in the morning.
Seth says, I definitely need a pottery team.
I'll be on your pottery team.
We'll definitely be on your pottery team, bro. Carla, is there anything else that you'd like to add before we kind of wrap up? If you guys got any other questions, and thank you guys for being here and for contributing to the comments. It really kind of helps open up the dialogue a little bit more, hearing things that you guys are hearing, and seeing what you guys are hearing, and being able to have a dialogue with you guys in the way that you are dissecting the information and the conversation.
Do I have anything? So I do. So we actually have book club tonight. For anyone who doesn't know, a lot of what Jesse and I talk about through our TGIF podcast are books that we generally hit on at some point. So book club is tonight at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. The next book we're going to be reading is The Magic of Thinking Big by David J. Schwartz. So if these kinds of books are things that you feel like you want to be reading, should be reading, just want to be around people who are reading them, come to book club. Because these are things that we talk about in book club too. So it's not just sitting here listening to me and Jesse talk. It's getting in on the conversation and being able to express your feelings, your perspective, your experiences. And really, I'd love to have everyone there and hear perspectives, because I take notes on things people say. So
it really is like it's literally one of the best ways to mastermind. And I love that you have that going twice a month, right? You're doing it twice a month. You guys are reading a book every 2 weeks and then coming together and masterminding about it. And we have had so many wonderful meetings, book club meetings, where we all had, I remember one particular meeting, I don't know if Freddie is still here. We had one particular meeting, we were reading a book, and we all, like, it kind of seemed like the majority of us, 90% of us, took the information at face value. And then Freddie came out of left field and he was like, no. Actually, this is how I took it. And we were all just like mind blown that was how he took it. And Man, it was awesome. It was so impactful for all of us to be able to learn and take away things. So guys, if you're not part of these book clubs, definitely get in there. It's not enough to just go through a book and get the information in there, but being able to come in and mastermind about it twice a month, it's literally the shit that levels you up.
So, Nestor, it's actually 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Freddie said Carlin keeps a sticky note on her computer, screams something I said months ago. He's not lying. It's right here. And it says, when you search for ways to fail, you find ways to succeed. Fredward.
Ooh, damn. Fredward dropping bombs, man.
I keep this sticky note right next to my laptop where I can see it, right next to my big analogy for my goals.
Dude, I love that. Read that one more time for the people in the back, Carlin.
When you search for ways to fail, you find ways to succeed. Freddie Fryer, everybody.
Dang. Freddie Fryer. I love it, Freddie. Thanks for being here, bro. But guys, really, like, this is where quantum leaps are made, by being able to come in here and be intentional, not only with the information, but discussing how it applies to you. How is the information in this book? How does it apply to you in your situation and the season that you're in your life, and the things that you're trying to overcome and build within your business? Being able to come in here and get different perspectives. It's almost like being in a hot seat in a way, where you have the ability to take new information and do something with it and get feedback from everybody else on whether or not they think, this may or may not be a good fit, or if you're interpreting, that information correctly. So it's one of the most powerful things that you could do. I love what you have going on in book club, and I'm really excited for it. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, show up, guys. I'll have coffee for me.
Coffee and donuts.
Coffee and donuts. You have to buy your own.
For Carlin.
I'd share if I could.
Love it. Awesome, guys. Well, thank you for being here. If you guys are not part of the Facebook group, please go join the Growth Co. Facebook group. It is absolutely phenomenal, especially if you guys are real estate investors. We're going to be dropping a lot of new content, new information. This Facebook group is getting a complete revamp. It's getting a complete makeover. And there's going to be a lot of things happening throughout the week. Lots of opportunities for you to grow. Lots of opportunities for you to connect with other people. And this is all free. So if you guys are not part of our Facebook group, please go join our Facebook group. And we look forward to seeing everybody at book club tonight. Thanks, guys.